Hi, I'm Greg Wilkins from Manly Yacht Club. This is a series of presentations on the racing rules of sailing. This presentation is on the rights and limitations, and there'll be another presentation on mark roundings and obstructions. So the first thing to consider is what rules are we racing under, or what rules apply to us while we're racing more specifically. The racing rules of sailing are rules that we've mutually agreed to adopt while we're racing, but they don't apply between race boats and other boats. So the racing rules of sailing apply between sailing vessels in or near the racing area while you're intending to race, are racing, or have raced. So they don't switch on immediately the race starts and switch off immediately the race finished. If you're on the way to the race course and you meet another boat on the way to the race course, you're under the race rules of sailing. As you're going in and out of the marina, probably not so much. You're probably underneath COLREGS. And more importantly, if you meet another boat that is not racing or not a sailing boat, then you are definitely under COLREGS even during the race. The final complication with the racing rules of sailing is that they change every 4 years. So this presentation is about the rules for 2021 to 2024. Which for those of us in the Southern Hemisphere kind of annoyingly change halfway through our sailing season. Not a lot of big changes, enough that you need to be aware of, so make sure you know the differences, and there is another one of these presentations on the differences and the new rules for 2021. So the racing rules of sailing. There's quite a few rules in the big thick blue book that we've got. I think the rule numbers go up to 70 or 90 odd, and there's quite a few rules in there. But you don't have to know all of them while you're out there on the water. A lot of the rules are about how you organise a race, how you do protests and various things like that. The most important rules to have in your head while you're out there actually sailing is part 2, the rules of part 2, when boats meet. And these are the right-of-way rules and the limitations on the right-of-way rules. And in order to interpret the rules in part 2, you also need to know the definitions, because definitions define the key terms that are used within the rules as they are written. The definitions are normally indicated by italics. So if you see a rule with a word in italics, go look up in the definition and find the formal definition of that word. Frequently, the formal definition is more or less in line with the common usage of the word, but it is still a precise technical definition, and there are occasionally little edge cases of, you think the boats overlap, but technically they don't overlap for existence. For example, so the sort of words you're going to see as definitions are room, keep clear, racing, who is a support person, is a boat fetching a mark. All these things have good definitions in the definition section. Okay, the rules we're going to study in this presentation are part 2 rules when boats meet. And we're going to break it down into the right-of-way rules and the limitations on right-of-way rules. And again, there's quite a few rules within part 2, but we're really going to focus on to just 8 rules. We're looking at the 4 right-of-way rules that define who must keep clear and who is the right-of-way boat. And then we're looking at the 4 principal rules that limit that right-of-way. And I'm going to labour this 2-step process again and again and again, that there is 2 sets of rules that we need to consider when we're looking at the situation on the water. The first is the right-of-way, who keeps clear, or maybe who gives way, and those are different concepts. And then what limitations apply to the right-of-way boat? Do they have to avoid contact and collision? Do they need to give room? Do they need to give mark room? Can they change course? Can they change speed? The right-of-way rules tend to be very instantaneously. You can take a snapshot with a camera and you can work out which boat is right-of-way, which boat keeps clear. The limitations are a little bit more dynamic. They're more about when situations change. Someone acquires right, someone's changing course, something has happened, boats are going around a mark. So they're different styles of rules, but it's important to keep both in mind when you're working out how you're sailing and avoid bumping into each other while you're out there. So let's see what right of way is. Section 2A says a boat has right of way over another boat when the other boat is required to keep clear. This is a common style of writing in the racing rules where something is defined in the negative. You don't say what right of way is, you say what it's not. We're going to define what keep clear boats are, which boats have to keep clear, and it is the other boat that has the right of way. So let's get straight into it. We have 4 rules that tell us who must keep clear. And I'm paraphrasing the rules here, and we'll give you the full text later on as we go through them. And the rules are, boats on opposite tacks, the port boat keeps clear. If boats are on the same tack and overlapped, the windward boat keeps clear. If boats are on the same tack, not overlapped, the boat astern keeps clear. And while tacking, the tacking boat will keep clear. And just those 4 basic rules tells us which boat has to keep clear, and therefore the other boat has right of way. Port keeps clear, windward keeps clear, astern keeps clear, tacking keeps clear. So just remember those 4 things, and I do it by remembering PWAT. Port, windward, astern, tacking. PWAT is the sound you'll make if you don't know your right of way rules when you hit another boat. Okay, let's go through these rules in more detail. Starting with opposite tacks, rule number 10. Here we have 2 boats. Yellow is on starboard, blue is on port. They're going upwind, the wind's indicated by the green arrow there. Rule 10 says, when boats are on opposite tacks, a port boat shall keep clear of a starboard tack boat. So in this case, blue is on port, blue must keep clear of yellow, therefore yellow is the right of way boat. Nice and simple. Okay, here's 2 more boats. Going downwind this time, we have blue on port and yellow is on starboard. So they're on opposite tacks. Rule 10 applies. Port, the blue boat, keeps clear. Yellow is the right of way boat because she's on starboard. Oh, another situation. One is going upwind, someone else is going downwind. So we have blue is on starboard and yellow is on port. So the boats are on opposite tacks. Rule 10 applies. Yellow must keep clear. Blue is the right of way boat. Okay, so what happens if the boats aren't on opposite tacks? We have to look at a few different situations when they're not on opposite tacks. The first is if they're overlapped. So here we have 2 boats. Yellow is on starboard and blue is also on starboard. So they're not on opposite tacks. Rule 10 doesn't apply. Rule 11 applies in this case because when boats are on the same tack and overlapped, a windward boat shall keep clear of a leeward boat. So we have to work out, are these boats overlapped to know if Rule 11 applies to them. And the definition of overlap is they overlap when neither is clear astern. And so therefore we have to look up the definition of what clear astern means. One boat is clear astern of another when a hull and equipment in normal position are behind a line, a beam from the aftermost point of the other boat's hull. So here we have such a line. Basically it's a perpendicular line from the back of the boat. And is the other boat behind that? Is blue behind that line? Blue is not behind that line. Blue is not clear astern of yellow. And yellow is not clear astern of blue. So neither boat is clear astern. Therefore these boats overlap. If these boats overlap, then Rule 11 applies, because when the boats are on the same tack and overlapped, a windward boat shall keep clear of a leeward boat. So that makes yellow is the windward boat and blue is the leeward boat. Yellow must keep clear of blue. Blue is the right of way boat. And yes, there are definitions of windward and leeward, but they're pretty much the common understandings of those, so I won't go into those. Okay, here's another example of this. We have blue on starboard and yellow is also on starboard. Do these boats overlap? Well, yep, they do, because neither is clear astern. Yellow is the windward boat. She must keep clear by Rule 11 on the same tack overlapped. Okay, what about these 2 boats? both still on starboard. Do they overlap? Well, they overlap when neither is clear astern. So the common understanding of overlap is that maybe blue is overlapped with yellow because she's next to her. But yellow is clear astern of blue. If we put the line out there, yellow's behind blue. So technically, they're not overlapped. Yellow's clear astern. So therefore, rule 11 doesn't apply anymore, and we come on to rule 12. When boats are on the same tack and not overlapped, a boat clear astern shall keep clear of a boat clear ahead. So therefore, yellow is now the keep clear boat. Blue is the right-of-way boat. This is the more standard situation that you'll see rule 12 in, where boats are both heading up upwinds here. It's pretty clear that yellow is clear astern of blue. They're both on the same tack, both on starboard. So yellow here is the keep clear boat. Blue is the right-of-way boat. Okay, what happens if we have boats that are overlapped but on opposite tacks? Here we have two boats going downwind, and blue is on port and yellow is on starboard. And first question we have to ask is, do they overlap? Well, there are some technicalities in the formal definition of overlap which involve whether a boat's going upwind or downwind. So these terms apply to boats on opposite tacks only when rule 18, mark room, which we'll do in another presentation, applies between them, or when the boats are sailing more than 90 degrees from the true wind. So technically these boats are overlapped even though they're on opposite tacks, because they are definitely sailing downwind more than 90 degrees from the true wind. But does that matter? Well, it doesn't make rule 11 apply, because rule 11 explicitly says boats on the same tack and overlapped. So if rule 11 doesn't apply, it's just rule 10. Port tack keeps clear of the starboard tack boat because they're on opposite tacks. Blue keeps clear, yellow is the right-of-way boat in this circumstance. Okay, our final of the 4 right-of-way rules, or the 4 keep clear rules. While tacking, number 13. Here we have two boats, they were going upwind, they were both on port, and for some bizarre reason, blue has decided to tack right there in front of yellow. So, what does the rule tell us about this? After a boat passes head to wind, she shall keep clear of the other boat until she is on a close hauled course. So we can see that blue has initiated her tack, but she hasn't come down to a close hauled course. She's got more to go. Her headsail's still flapping away there. So she is still tacking. And so therefore, rule 13 applies to her, and she must keep clear of yellow. Blue is the keep clear boat. Yellow is the right-of-way boat. But what happens if yellow gets a bit spooked by that strange tack, and she also tacks as well? Okay, now we have two boats tacking at the same time. Who has to keep clear? Well, rule 13 goes on to say if two boats are subject to this rule at the same time, the one on the other's port side or the one astern shall keep clear. So now yellow is on port side of blue. So yellow is the keep clear boat and blue is the right-of-way boat. So that's the 4 principal rules of who must keep clear and thus who has right-of-way. But those rules are written in terms of a pair of boats. How do we work it out when we have multiple boats? Who has right-of-way when there's, in this case, 5 boats out there? Well, we simply break it down into every single pair of boats and we say which boats must keep clear of which other boats. And we always look at these pairs. So here in this situation, we can break it down. Orange, while she's luffing here, she has not yet tacked. So she's on starboard. There's 3 boats over there on port. So that rule 10 applies between them. So she doesn't keep clear of them. And the magenta, well, a pink boat, is behind her. So she doesn't keep clear of her. So therefore, orange is the right-of-way boat against all 4 other boats. If we look at purple, purple keeps clear of pink and orange because she's on port tack, and orange and pink are on starboard. So thereby rule 10, opposite tacks, purple keeps clear of orange and pink. But against green and blue, they're on the same tack. They're overlapped by the looks of it. Yes, they're overlapped. And so therefore green keeps clear of purple and blue keeps clear of purple. Purple has right of way over green and blue. So she only keeps clear of orange and pink. Blue keeps clear of purple because she's the windward boat to purple by rule 11. She also keeps clear of pink and orange because they're on starboard, she's on port. Green, up the top of the page there, keeps clear of blue and purple by rule 11 because she's the windward boat to both of those. Although I would maybe argue she's clear ahead of blue, but hard to see in this diagram. Either way, she'd keep clear of her. And she's on port, so therefore by rule 10, she's keeping clear of orange and pink. And finally, pink is on starboard, so she doesn't have to keep clear of green, purple or blue, but she is clear astern of orange, so she has to keep clear of orange by rule 12, same tack, not overlapped. So we just look at the pairs and work it all out. And so any interaction, we just have to know who must keep clear of who, and therefore who has the right of way over the other. So what happens if it changes a little bit here? If orange actually goes into attack, it instantaneously changes. The moment orange goes through the head of the wind, she is tacking. And instantly she has to keep clear of everybody. So everybody has right of way over her. And so we can just cross off orange from all the other boats. But the relationships between the other boats don't change at all. They still must keep clear of who they had to keep clear of before. And when orange finally completes her tack, instantaneously the rules change again. Now orange is on port. Now she must keep clear of pink because of rule 10 on opposite tacks. She's now the windward boat, the leeward boat on the same tack as green, purple and blue. So green, purple and blue must all keep clear of her, and she has right of way over them like she did before, but now with a different rule. So the important thing here is that we work it out by pairs of boats, and when something changes, it's instantaneous. We can look at a snapshot and we can work out who has right of way, who must keep clear. However, there is one circumstance where you do have to consider multiple boats, and that's in the interpretation of rule 11, same tack overlapped. I've said here that blue must keep clear of orange by rule 11 because they are overlapped. But if you look at just blue and orange, I believe blue is clear astern of orange, and you could say, well, therefore she should have to keep clear due to rule 12, same tack, not overlapped. But because purple is there, the definition of overlap says they also overlap when a boat between them overlaps both. And because purple is there, blue overlaps purple, purple overlaps orange, therefore blue overlaps orange. And it's rule 11 that applies between blue and orange rather than rule 12. Okay, so we know who must keep clear, who is the right of way boat. Now it's time to look at the definition of what keep clear means. What does a boat have to do in order to keep clear? A boat keeps clear if the other boat can sail her course with no need to take avoiding action, and the other boat can change course without immediately making contact. So let's look at some little examples of what this means. Here we have two boats. Yellow is on starboard, blue is on port. Yellow is the right of way boat, blue must keep clear because of rule 10, opposite tacks. So therefore, blue must keep clear of yellow. Can yellow sail her course? I don't think so. If yellow doesn't do something pretty soon, there's going to be some contact, collision. In fact, it's going to be very hard for yellow to avoid collision no matter what she does. So because yellow cannot sail her course, blue has not kept clear, blue has broken Rule 10 on opposite tacks. So here's another situation where both boats are on the same tack and overlapped. We have both on starboard and yellow is to windward, so therefore yellow is the keep clear boat and blue is the right of way boat. Can blue sail her course as the right of way boat? I believe she can. She can sail on forward and she's not going to hit yellow from that position. But can blue change course without immediately making contact? I don't think so. If blue comes up, yellow will hit her in the side. If blue goes down, her stern will hit yellow's nose. So blue cannot change course. Yellow has not kept clear. She's broken Rule 11 by not keeping clear of the right-of-way boat. Okay, in addition to the 4 principal rules of right-of-way, there's a couple of extra rules in section D which define or give other conditions when you must keep clear, and so therefore they are right-of-way rules, because right-of-way is when the other boat has to keep clear of you. So if you're late to the start or you're going back for a restart, you must keep clear of boats that are racing. If you are taking a penalty, you must keep clear. If you are sailing backwards or sideways, you must keep clear. So these are extra keep clear rules. They are right-of-way rules. So let's summarize the 4 principal rules of right-of-way. 10, 11, 12, 13. Port keeps clear, windward keeps clear, astern keeps clear, tacking keeps clear. Remember it with PWAT. These 4 principal rules will tell you who has to keep clear and thus who has right-of-way. So let's contrast those now to the COLREGS. They're very similar, but they're subtly different in some important ways. The first big difference in COLREGS says a sailing vessel shall give way when the following conditions apply, which is different to the racing rules where a boat must keep clear. And the difference between keeping clear and giving way is that a give way sailing vessel must take early and substantial action. And this is very much unlike a racing boat that keeps clear. A keep clear boat can keep clear by shaving the transom of a right-of-way boat by a mere centimetres. But that's not taking early and substantial action. And we'll show an example of this later. But other than that, the rules read more or less the same. Boats on opposite tacks, port gives way. On the same tack, the windward boat gives way. COLREGS has the concept of overtaking. This is kind of equivalent to the difference between being overlapped and not overlapped, because when you're overtaking, you are initially not overlapped, then you are overlapped, and then once you've finished overtaking, you're not overlapped again. But under COLREGS, it doesn't matter whether you're on the same tack or on opposite tacks, or whether you're both sailing boats. If you're the overtaking boat, you must give way. So if you ever hear a racing boat shouting, "Overtaking boat keeps clear," they've got themselves a bit mixed up, because overtaking is not defined in the racing rules. It's a concept that does exist, but in COLREGS. So it's between boats that aren't racing, or between a racing boat and one that isn't racing. So overtaking doesn't exist in between 2 racing boats. The other big difference here is there's no concept of tacking in the COLREGS. While you're tacking, your rights don't particularly change. What they do have is that if a boat has restricted manoeuvrability because it's constrained by its draft, or it's towing or being towed, or it's trawling, or some other reason, then you have to give way to it. Okay, so let's look again at the difference between give way and keep clear. A give way sailing vessel shall take early and substantial action. So here we have Green, a cruising boat, out for a lovely weekend sail. She's got the dinghy out the back. The kids are probably in the dinghy being taken for a drag, having a great time. The wine's probably poured and sitting on the table, and they're having a wonderful cruise up the harbour. Along comes Blue, a race boat, who sees the cruiser ahead of them. Blue realises that she's on port, therefore she must keep clear of green, who is on starboard. But blue thinks, oh well, I don't want to give up too much height. I'm going to leave it to the last second and bear away and just go behind a little dinghy. The problem is that green doesn't know that blue's a wonderful, hotshot racer. Green just sees an imminent collision about to happen. So the kids start screaming, the dog's barking, the Chardonnay's been spilled, and blue has broken the COLREGS because she has not taken early and substantial action. And she doesn't break the COLREGS when she skims the dinghy by a few tens of centimetres. She broke the COLREGS some time back, 50 metres back, 100 metres back. The moment that it was obvious an interaction was going to take place. Blue should have taken early and substantial action so green knows that blue is going behind. Phew, okay. That's the right of way and keeping clear and giving way rules. Time for a little bit of a break. I would recommend pausing the video, go and getting yourself a glass of red wine, or just staring at a nice race boat to remind yourselves what we're all here for. It's not to do death by PowerPoint, it's to go sailing. Okay, on with the show. Now we've learnt the rules that tell us who has right of way, we're going to look at some rules that limit the right of way that boats have. Just because you have right of way doesn't mean you're king of the seas and can do anything. You still have some restrictions on you, and they can be quite significant at times. So let's just jump straight into it. These are the 4 principal limitations on a boat with right of way. 14, you shall avoid contact, if reasonably possible. 15, when acquiring the right of way, you shall initially give room, and we'll define room later. Rule 16, when changing course, you shall give room. And finally, a right-of-way boat shall not sail above their proper course, blah, 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 blah. Quite a complex rule. We'll deal with that when we get to it. So the way I like to remember these 4 basic rules is CACA, because you'll be in a lot of CACA if you don't know your limitations. Contact, acquiring, changing, and above. Let's drill down into these rules in detail. So the first one, avoiding contact. A boat shall avoid contact with another boat if reasonably possible. So here we have 2 boats. Blue is on starboard, green is on port. Green is the keep clear boat, blue is the right of way boat. We can get that instantaneously. It doesn't look like green's doing a very good job of keeping clear here, and blue is trying to encourage green to keep clear by shouting starboard at them. Now, too often this situation develops like this, and we end up in a protest room and blue says to the protest committee, I yelled starboard and then we hit. And that's really bad testimony for blue to make, because even though green is the keep clear boat, and obviously green is breaking rule 10 here by not keeping clear, blue still has the limitation on her right of way that she must avoid contact if reasonably possible. And so if this was to go to a protest room, blue would have a problem with the rule 14, because I believe it would have been reasonably possible for blue to avoid contact. She could have done a crash tack. She could have dumped the main and bore away and gone behind green and then shouted protest. A better testimony to hear from a situation like this would be, I yelled starboard, I realised they were not tacking, so I put the helm hard over, but we still hit. And this is a good testimony to have regarding Rule 14, because the rules allow a right-of-way boat need not act to avoid contact until it's clear that the other boat is not keeping clear. So blue might have thought that green was going to tack, and it was only late in the situation they realised green thought they were going to get across when there was no way that blue had to do a crash tack. And by the time they realised that green was being too optimistic, they did their tack and they still made contact. But at least the contact is going to be side by side, a lot better than T-bone it would have been otherwise. And in this situation, blue's not going to have so much trouble with Rule 14 if it comes to a protest, because they took reasonable action once it was clear green was not keeping clear. But still, the best outcome would be if blue said, I yelled starboard, realised they weren't keeping clear, so I had to tack to avoid a collision, and then I yelled protest. Now, some boats will tell you that unless you actually hit green, you're never going to win that protest. But that's a really bad way of looking at these things. Are you seriously saying that you're going to get splintered fiberglass, bent stanchions, and injured crew, or worse, just so you can avoid having to risk not winning a protest? It's far better to avoid the collision, sail to the rules in the spirit they're intended, and if you feel that you were impeded, take it to the protest room, make your case, and if it's a good case, you will win the protest. Okay, rule 15, acquiring the right of way. Here we have two boats going upwind. Both of them are on port. They are overlapped, so therefore rule 11 applies. On same tack, while overlapped, windward boat, yellow, must keep clear of the leeward boat, blue. Blue is the right of way boat. But what happens if the situation changes? What if blue bizarrely decides to tack? Well, blue is now tacking. She has passed head to wind, but she has not come onto her close-hauled course. So by rule 13, she is now the keep clear boat, and right away has switched instantaneously from yellow to blue. Yellow has acquired the right of way. So we have to now consider what obligations and limitations are due because of that acquiring of the right of way. So let's have a look at rule 15. When boats acquire the right of way, she shall give the other boat room unless acquired because of the other boat's actions. So in this particular case, yellow has acquired the right of way because blue changed the situation by initiating attack. So therefore yellow has no obligation under rule 15 to give blue room. She may have an obligation under rule 14 to avoid a collision, but not under 15 because of acquiring the right of way. So what happens now when blue finishes attack? Instantaneously, right of way has now swapped back to blue because now yellow is required to keep clear because she's on port and blue is now on starboard. Blue has acquired the right of way, and she has acquired the right of way through her own action by tacking. So now the force of 15 comes into play. Blue has acquired the right of way. She shall initially give the other boat room. What does room mean? Room, the space a boat needs to comply with her obligations under the rules of part 2, which are the rules we're looking at here. So therefore yellow has to keep clear, and in this situation blue has just tacked right onto her. Can yellow now do something to keep clear of blue? I don't believe so. If yellow comes up, blue's still going to hit her. If she goes down, she hits immediately. If she could sink really, really quickly, maybe she'd avoid a collision or teleport out of there. But those aren't practical things, so therefore yellow cannot keep clear. There's nothing she can do to keep clear. In this case, blue has broken rule 15 and not given room to yellow to keep clear after acquiring the right of way. So let's look a little bit more detail at this rule. Here we have yellow coming downwind and she is on starboard. And we have blue going upwind on port. So these boats are on opposite tacks. Blue is on port. She is the keep clear boat. And she must keep clear of yellow, who is the right of way boat. All fine and good. Blue again bizarrely decides to tack at this point of time. Now blue is in her tack. She is past head to wind, but she has not come onto the close hauled course. So she is the boat that is tacking. She is still the keep clear boat, but now for a different rule. Rule 13 rather than rule 10. No one's acquired any right of way, so nothing changes. 15 doesn't apply. Okay, blue has finished her tack. She's now on starboard, with yellow also on starboard. So these boats are on the same tack. They are overlapped because neither is clear astern. So therefore rule 11 applies. Yellow is the windward boat and must keep clear. Blue has acquired right of way by her own actions. By tacking onto starboard, she acquired right of way. Therefore, Rule 15 applies and she must initially give room. So what does that mean in this situation? Well, to work it out, we have to look at a little bit more detail of the definition of room. The space a boat needs in the existing conditions, including space to comply with her obligations under rules of Part 2 and Rule 31, while manoeuvring promptly in a seaman-like way. So straight away we can see that this is very much a subjective rule, that we have to consider conditions and what's seaman-like for a boat. So yellow's got a spinnaker up. Is she going to be able to luff up straight away to avoid blue? That would be, a pretty horrible manoeuvre to do. If she was a well-crewed boat, she might be able to whack a jibe in straight away and avoid blue. But what happens if she was this boat with two spinnakers and I'm going to say blooper up and two mains to jibe? She's not going to jibe that boat anytime soon. So if another boat tacked on to starboard right in front of her, she would break Rule 15 by not initially giving room for the other boat to keep clear. Okay, Rule 16, changing course. There are limitations on when a right-of-way boat can change course. Here we have two boats going upwind. We have yellow is on starboard, we have blue on port. They're on opposite tacks. Blue is the keep clear boat, yellow is the right-of-way boat. Here blue's a little bit bow forward and thinks, maybe I'm lucky, maybe I can get across. Oh, but yellow doesn't like this. Yellow really wants blue to tack and go away the other way and doesn't want her to cross in front. So yellow has come up a little bit to make it clear to blue that she's not getting across the front. Or maybe yellow just got a wonderful little lift and that was a natural way to come up. Yellow has changed course and she's the right-of-way boat. Does this give her any extra obligations? Well, when a right-of-way boat changes course, she shall give the other boat room to keep clear. Has yellow given blue room to keep clear here? I think so. They're quite far apart. Blue could bear away, big dump of the main, but she'd get behind yellow from there. Blue could probably tack. She should have been anticipating she might not be across. She should be pretty ready to tack. A good race boat's always ready to tack. So blue could reasonably keep clear of yellow. Yellow's given blue room. There's nothing wrong with that change of course that the right-of-way boat has done there. 16's not that onerous in common situations. This change of course happens all the time. It's called hunting. Yellow's gone hunting blue to force her into a tack to go the other way. In club racing it probably happens a little bit too often, and that yellow forces blue into a tack just because she can. Frequently it might have been better for yellow to let blue through, because if yellow's going left, she's obviously thinking there's good wind left. Why is she pushing blue to go left? But there are circumstances in which the right-of-way boat can't change course. So here we have blue on port, the keep clear boat, just sneaking across the bow of yellow, the right-of-way boat. If these boats hold their course, there will not be a collision. Yellow will pass very closely behind blue. But if yellow, the right-of-way boat, changes course like this, either to deliberately show that blue couldn't get across, or because she took a bit of a lift, or maybe it was a slight roundup, then a collision is ensued. Blue has not kept clear. But 16 doesn't allow her to do that. When a right-of-way boat changes course, she shall give the other boat room to keep clear. Blue was keeping clear a second beforehand, and once yellow changed course, blue was unable to keep clear. She couldn't have come down, she couldn't have come up, there was nothing she could do to keep clear. So in this situation, yellow has broken Rule 16. This rule applies frequently in match racing. Here we have two etchels doing a dial-up, sailing around in little circles. Etchel number 2 is on starboard, etchel number 3 is on port. 3 must keep clear of 2. 2 could very easily from that position hit 3, but she better not. But she must give 3 room to keep clear because of Rule 16. There's a second part of Rule 16 which deals with a very specific circumstance on a beat to windward when the port tack boat is keeping clear by sailing to pass to leeward of a starboard tack boat. She shall not bear away if as a result the port tack boat must immediately change course to continue keeping clear. So it's just a little bit more forceful than 16.1 to try and avoid boats dialing down in this circumstance. Rule 17, the last of our 4 primary limitation rules and the most complex of them. If a boat clear astern becomes overlapped within 2 of her hull lengths to leeward of a boat on the same tack, she shall not sail above her proper course while they remain on the same tack and overlapped within that distance. That's quite a mouthful, but the way I like to think of this rule, it's putting a limitation on how a boat can overtake to leeward. The COLREGS has an overtaking rule, but the racing rules don't. But the situation that this rule describes is an overtake, a boat clear astern establishing an overlap and maintaining that overlap until it's eventually broken. It applies to a boat overtaking to leeward because a boat overtaking to windward is the keep clear boat, and you don't need any extra limitations on it because she must keep clear of the boat she's overtaking. But a boat overtaking to leeward, the moment the overlap is established, becomes the right-of-way boat. Now, she must initially give room by Rule 15 because she's just acquired rights through her own action. And then while that overlap exists, she can't change course to prevent the windward boat from keeping clear by Rule 16. But Rule 17 goes even further. It says she shall not sail above her proper course. The proper course is the course a boat would choose in order to sail the course and finish as soon as possible in the absence of other boats. So this doesn't mean that the leeward boat can't push the windward boat up if she thinks that's the fastest way to the finish. Proper course is very subjective. The boats might have different sail plans. The skippers might think there's more wind on the left or less current in the middle, or that there's a wind change coming from the east. So they might want to sail different courses. So the leeward boat can still sail the course she would choose to finish as quickly as possible, but she can't do in a silly luffing battle with the boat that she's overtaking. She can't establish an overlap and then immediately go up, 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 up and take them to a halt. So let's see how that applies to our 3 example boats on the left. We have yellow under a symmetric kite sailing very deep. We have orange under a cat rig, one great big main, sailing a little bit higher, and then we have a blue boat under asymmetric spinnaker sailing a fair bit higher. The setup is correct for this rule. They are all clear astern. Orange is clear astern of yellow, and blue is clear astern of orange. So let's see what happens when they establish overlaps. Here we have orange has established an overlap on yellow, blue has established an overlap on orange, and technically blue has established an overlap on yellow as well because a boat in between them overlaps them both. But there's the extra clause in there, within 2 of her hull lengths to leeward. So it's a close overtake. Orange is doing a close overtake of yellow. So Rule 17 applies to orange. Blue is coming in from the side, more than 2 of her hull lengths away from the other 2 boats. So she is not constrained by Rule 17, not constrained to sail above her proper course. So when we get down to this situation here, while orange can't push yellow up any more than she could justify by what would be her fastest way to the finish, blue, if she wanted to, could engage in silly luffing games and push them all the way up to a stop, sit in their wind shadow, and all 3 boats would lose out to the rest of the fleet. Rule 17 is a very specific circumstance which applies to a leeward overtake. Okay, a few other limitation style rules. Rules that limit your right of way. If another boat is capsized, anchored, aground, or assisting in a rescue or some similar thing, then, if possible, you should avoid them. When you are not racing, if reasonable possible, do not interfere with a boat that is racing. If you're on another leg, taking a penalty, or restarting your race, unless you're sailing your proper course, the fastest way to finish, don't interfere with another boat. All limitations on your right of way. But let's go back to our 4 principal rules and have a summary of what those are. If you're the right of way boat, you shall avoid contact. When you acquire rights, you shall initially give room. When you're changing course, you shall give room. And you shall not sail above your proper course if you're overtaking to leeward. I remember those by caca, because you'll be in a lot of caca if you don't know your limitations. Let's contrast those to the COLREGS, which also has limitations on right of way. A right of way sailing vessel shall avoid collision, same as avoid contact. They don't have any limitations about initially giving room or changing course, but they require you that when you do a maneuver, you must assess the risk of collision, and if it increases the risk of collision, you shouldn't undertake that maneuver. But they also have a limitation on the right-of-way sailing vessel that they must maintain course and speed. And that's quite a significant limitation. Let's have a look at it. Green is a cruising boat on port. Blue is either a racing boat or a cruising boat on starboard. Green must give way to blue. Blue is the right-of-way boat. Under COLREGS, blue, as the right-of-way boat, must maintain her course and speed. So even if there's some height there, they get a little bit of a lift, they're not allowed to take it because they must hold their course so that green knows that she's giving way and knows that they're not suddenly back onto a collision course. This is an extra limitation when COLREGS apply. Time for another bit of a rest and a pause before we finish up with one last example. Let's do some more detailed examples. This is going to combine all our 4 primary right-of-way rules and our 4 limitation rules. We have 2 boats going upwind. Both are on the same tack. Yellow is clear astern of blue, so therefore yellow keeps clear, blue is our right-of-way boat. So that's our right-of-way has been established. Nothing is changing here, so we have no obligations at the moment. Basically, yellow just must keep clear of blue. Blue decides that she wants to tack. So she's coming up into a luff here. That hasn't really changed anything at the moment. Luffing doesn't come into the rules. So yellow is still the keep clear boat. And at this distance, I think she is keeping clear. Blue can sail a course, can change direction, and yellow is keeping clear perfectly fine. In fact, blue is changing course and must give room to yellow to keep clear, and in this case I think she is. There's, yellow's got plenty of options to keep clear. Okay, blue's finished attack. Oh no, she doesn't finish attack, she's passed through head to wind. So she now is tacking. She is now the keep clear boat by rule 13. So yellow is now the right-of-way boat. She has acquired rights. But as we've seen before, she's acquired those rights not by her own action. So rule 15 doesn't really apply. However, it's a kind of dangerous manoeuvre here of blue. Does yellow have to take action here to avoid contact? Well, maybe, but it could be that she thinks that blue's going to go all the way around and head off back the other direction. There's still space there for blue to continue bearing away after her attack. So, if in any other evidence to the contrary, why would blue tack and T-bone yellow? Yellow doesn't have to avoid contact at this stage. It's not clear for her that blue is going to do something. So, blue now has finished attack. Okay, her sails are still flogging. We can see they're all flapping around here, but she's on a close hauled course. She's now acquired rights as the starboard boat. Yellow is now the keep clear boat because she's on port. So, and again, that instantaneously changed right away once blue had finished her tack. The moment she's on a close haul tack, she became the right of way boat through her own actions. So she acquired rights and she must initially give room, which in this case, very close. I think, maybe she could get away with it. Yellow can probably tack away at it here. Okay, yellow does her tack because now it's clear that blue is not doing anything. So yellow's tacking must keep clear And Blue's being forced to luff a little bit here, and she has to do so because she's initially giving room. She's on starboard, she has right of way, but she has to give room. In this case, it means to luff just a little bit. Rights and limitations summary. Pwat. Port, windward, astern, tacking. Those are the conditions where you have to keep clear. Port keeps clear, windward boat keeps clear, astern keeps clear, tacking keeps clear, and the other boat, therefore, is the right-of-way boat. But if you're the right-of-way boat, you have limitations on your right-of-way. You have to avoid contact. If you've acquired your right-of-way through your own action, you must initially give room. If you're changing course with right-of-way, you must give room. And you must not sail above your proper course in some very specific circumstances. Okay, that was a long haul. That's the rights and limitations. I'm Greg Wilkins at Manly Yacht Club. If you have questions, you can send them to me, greg@myc.org.au. I will now be doing another presentation on marks and obstructions. I recommend you take a little bit of a break before having a look at that, because that will probably be another hour and lots more slides. We'll see you in that presentation. Cheers.